Welcome to the Anchor Your Retirement podcast. I'm your host, Barbara Gullen, hanging out in the studio today with my buddy and pal, Tony Shore. How you doing, Tony?
Well, I'm doing great, but I'm not as good as you are, Barb, because you recently moved. That's exciting. It's kind
Yes,
of moving is always it's a pain, but it's a fresh start. I
it
love
is.
that decluttering and going through
So much
things.
purging, so many
Yes.
donations, so
Doesn't
many things.
purging feel good though
It
of getting
does.
rid of junk?
It does. And so many things that I thought were lost forever have been found over the last few weeks.
Isn't that great? Like this is where this was. Yeah.
Yes, including the Tiffany bracelet that I got for the
Oh,
5th gala with Gradient.
oh my
I thought,
gosh.
yes, I found it. I thought I had put it someplace else, and when I went to look there, it wasn't there, and I was heartbroken, and then found it yesterday. So,
That's awesome. In fact, I think
yes.
I remember you telling me that you were bummed because you lost it. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad you
It's a
found it.
very sentimental thing to me. I mean, aside from the fact that it's Tiffany,
Well, yeah.
to work with a company that really acknowledges the efforts.
I mean, what a gift. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a reward for your efforts and how hard you've worked and you
Mhm.
accomplished a lot with your business. So I think it's not only is it deserved, but yeah, you want to hang on to it, Barb. You might
I
not want to
do.
misplace that
I
one.
do. Well,
So what are we
put it
talking
someplace
about
safe where
today?
you won't lose it and you forget
Yeah.
where it is. Today, we're going to talk about why women need to save more money. But before we do that, we need to do a little housekeeping. We haven't done this in a while.
Okay.
Talking about how people can follow us and subscribe and where
Yes.
to find us, because you might be listening to this on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, but we have a YouTube channel that we actually record a video of us every week doing this podcast, which has its entertaining moments for sure, especially when the Royals beat the Twins in a baseball series, and then you have to
Ooh.
wear a Royals cap. Oh, that did
Ouch.
just happen, didn't it?
Ouch. Oh
Sorry.
no. I
That's
should be wearing
okay.
my Royals cap, I guess.
We are competing with each other to see who is going to be the basement of the AL Central.
Yeah, right now it's a
So,
race to the bottom for the
it
Royals and the Twins, isn't it?
the Royals have done a little bit better, but and again, we're recording this a couple of weeks in advance. We've been getting a little bit ahead of the curve here with summertime. I don't know, you probably weren't watching because we were playing the Texas Rangers the other night, and a player actually had a line drive that hit the pitcher square in the forehead at 107 miles an hour. And thankfully, he is okay. Um, he got up, stood up, didn't get knocked out. Had the ball been
Wow.
2 inches lower, it would have taken out an eye socket. Um, and you could see him telling the trainers and everybody that he's okay, and they're like, yeah, we're sure you're okay, but you're done pitching for the night. And I don't know if he is going to be back in the rotation or if he's on a concussion protocol, but just the compassion of the Texas Rangers player. He was freaking out because, of course, they hit the ball, they run, and then they look to see where the ball went, and he looked over and saw the pitcher flat on his back on the mound, and
Wow.
was desperately trying to get the umpire's attention to make sure that he was called safe so that he could leave the base and go check on the pitcher. So, he was just, you could see how worried he was. I almost thought they were going to throw a pinch runner in for him, but he got himself settled down while the new pitcher was warming up, and all's well that ends well. But if you
Right.
like this podcast and if you want to go back and listen to old episodes, because Tony, we have talked about everything from federal employees to recently we did one on vacationing on a budget, and some of my favorite ones are, we're going to talk today about why women need to save more. And I have a
Yeah.
heart for helping women design that retirement that they envision and helping them achieve what they envision. So many people neglect women when it comes to financial planning, probably because there's only 20 to 25% of the advisors that are licensed like I am that are women.
Yeah.
And it's funny because women are better at managing the day-to-day expenses, but for some reason they have been conditioned to think that that doesn't translate and carry over into managing those longer term investments. And really, they owe it to themselves to get that education and to save more because they're going to live longer. And there's just so many reasons. I have like 65,000 thoughts running through my head, and they're all trying to jump out of my mouth at the same time.
Well, there's so many. That's because it's just the list goes on and on. It's
It
why,
does.
and that's why women do need to save more. It's not just something. Oh yeah, we hear about it. Women don't make as much as men. That's really changed. And has it
But it
really
really
changed for
hasn't.
some?
And
Yeah,
some maybe, but for most, no. And in
there's still a
fact,
wage gap.
we had been closing that income gap, and
Yeah.
over the last 2 years, it's started to get wider again.
Yep.
And whether that's because women are historically in the lower paying professions, they're in a lot of service professions. They tend to be the nurses rather than the doctors. Although I think that is changing. What I would say when I'm looking at the medical field is I would say that nursing is a female dominated field, but I see more and more women stepping into that role of doctor.
Right.
However, something that I found out while I was researching for the show and that I didn't realize is that the younger you are, the smaller that income gap, the pay gap is, and the older somebody gets, the wider that gap is. Women who are 25 to 34 are going to earn about 95 cents for every dollar that their male counterparts earn. So that's not too bad.
No.
It's still not dollar for dollar, but it's a heck of a lot closer than the average of 81 cents a dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it used to be much worse. I mean, you go back to the 70s, it was awful.
Well,
right?
and it's still, it still isn't the greatest. That's for Caucasian women. If you are a woman of color, you are going to earn even less than that. If you are,
and that should not be. That's crazy that in this day and age that.
I agree. Latina women only earn 54 cents on the per dollar.
Oh.
And Black women earn 63 cents. So, it's not only a gender problem, it is
a race issue too.
It's a race issue too.
Yeah.
But, what happens is women are the ones that usually, we call it the mom penalty.
Mm-hmm. Raising the family.
Yes.
Taking time off to have children.
Mm-hmm. And, taking that time, we as a nation do not have universal paid maternity leave. And I think we're one of the last first world countries to not have adopted that on some level. And then, because you don't have that paid maternity leave, because we don't have a childcare infrastructure that supports women returning to the workforce, a lot of women step out of the workforce. And even if it's just for that 5 or so years before the kids are in school, that 5-year gap makes a huge difference.
In your Social Security, that's why women typically have much lower Social Security incomes than their male counterparts.
They do, because Social Security is based on either your 35 or 40 highest years compensation.
So they're not working as long. They're not earning as much typically.
Right.
And that's we're not trying to stereotype. There are exceptions. We're not saying it's that way across the board, but in general, on average, that's what happens. And so women do need to save more.
And here's the thing: as a woman, you're going to live longer. If you are in a marriage partnership, and typically since men have a shorter life expectancy by about 5 years, they are usually the ones to get sick first. When we have a married couple and one member of the household gets sick, like with my grandparents, my grandfather had Alzheimer's disease. Now, my grandmother didn't work outside the home, but we are talking about the World War II generation, the greatest
Right.
generation. It was a very different set of dynamics back then. I mean, even when I was in college, when I was in engineering school, I had friends, classmates who were adults who were married and had a family, and they could work part time at something like UPS and still provide so that the wife could stay home with the baby.
Right.
Now, I mean, it wasn't a fancy house. They weren't eating steak every night, but they were able to make it on that part time income, at least temporarily. Getting back to what we're talking about now, as women, and again, when we're taking off those years early in our career, we think it isn't going to make that big of a difference for retirement savings. But you know what they're foregoing when they do that? It's that element of compound interest and
Yeah.
having that money sit there and continue to grow. A lot of times they won't contribute to that 401k in that first job, knowing, well, I'm going to be leaving the workforce in a couple of years because I'm planning on having children. So I want to save that money now to have it for when I'm not working, when in reality, they're leaving money on the table by not participating in their 401k or in that employer sponsored retirement plan. Even, when my daughters started working, especially my oldest daughter, the first thing I had her do was open a Roth IRA, and she did not like that at all.
I bet not. Yeah. Yep.
But you know what? She's got a nice little nest egg going for retirement already, and she's not even 25 years old.
That's awesome. Yeah, I told my daughter to open one, and Allison opened one when she was 21, and she tries to put $200 in every month. And I'll tell you what, you put $200 a month into a Roth, it's a Roth. By the time she's 65, she'll be a multimillionaire and it'll be tax-free.
Which is fantastic,
Yeah.
because with inflation and everything going on right now, who knows how much the 25-year-olds are going to need to be able to retire.
That'll buy a loaf of bread when she retires. If we're not careful.
Well, the solvency of Social Security is a matter of concern.
Oof,
we've been talking about that.
But a big one. Wait.
Here's another truth. Social Security is dying.
When you hear it said with such gravitas, it has a lot of impact.
But as women, why you need to save more? You're going to live longer.
Yep.
Historically, you are making less than your male counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not saying that's always going to be the case. If you are in a marriage relationship, usually the first partner to get sick depletes the bulk of that nest egg, unless you have prepared with long-term care insurance and have stuff earmarked for both of you. And then the counterintuitive thing about all of that is that the second person to get sick usually is sick for longer because they sacrificed their health and their well-being caring for that first person that got sick and doing everything they could to keep that person out of the long-term care facility, out of assisted living for as long as possible.
There you go. Yeah.
So, we end up hitting that perfect storm because people frequently look to women to be the caregivers.
They're the caregivers.
When we look at the sandwich generation, which is the generation that has aging parents that need help and still has kids at home, then, most of the unpaid caregivers here in the United States are women. And that's all part of the shadow economy that was talked about in the book Swiftonomics. That we did another great podcast on that you ought to go back and listen to. Misty Hegnes is an economist who really has studied the impact of women on the labor market and done a lot of studies and emphasis on that unpaid labor market, that the male professional is successful because he has his wife at home. And I'm being stereotypical here. Do not hit me with a bunch of comments. I'm speaking in generalities here.
Sure. Yeah.
As the wife at home who is fixing the meals, cleaning the house, dropping off the dry cleaning, doing all of the errand running, and doing all of those chores. And typically when a woman is in the workforce, there is not a division of labor. Basically, a woman ends up taking on a second full-time job managing the household, which is another reason why she gets sick for longer, because her health isn't the same as her male counterpart who isn't married, who leaves work for the day and gets to go to the gym and work out and then go eat a healthy meal and get enough sleep, where the working mom is leaving work to go pick up the kids at daycare, do all of that errand running. If she has not had the time to plan out that healthy meal, she is standing at the counter eating the leftovers from the kids' plates. And, Jim hasn't taken that effort to take care of herself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so you really need to, again, it's just to stress the point, you need a financial plan in place. And for couples, you need to take this into account. And for the husbands listening out there, or the men, you need to take into account, hey, maybe you need to wait to take your Social Security, let it roll up, because your wife's isn't going to be as much. And that way, when you pass away first, which is more than likely going to happen, she will have your higher Social Security to lean on. But if you think, oh, I'm taking it right away, that's the best thing at 62, you might be, or I'm taking the lump sum pension, or just the pension that ends when I pass. What happens to your spouse, whether it's the man or woman, but especially women, because they typically outlive men. And I mean, the stats I just read, one study just showed women outlive men by 6 years typically. It's like, wow.
And so, financial planning is more than just figuring out what investment makes sense. It is long-term income planning. It is planning how you are going to pay for long-term care, which may or may not include a long-term care insurance policy, because those are one-trick ponies that get really expensive really quick.
Yeah.
It is. And if you get my wish and you just fall asleep one night and wake up the next morning in front of the creator that you've been planning on seeing your entire life, then you've literally lit a match to that money that somebody could have used to live on. I mean, I got a text early this morning that one of my clients passed away, and his wife was a naturalized citizen. She hasn't worked outside the home. Life is about to look very different.
Yes.
Because while he was alive, she was entitled to that spousal Social Security benefit, especially while they had a younger child who was still in school. But now that he's gone, she'll get half of his pension, and she's only going to be getting one Social Security check, not two.
But the bills, just because one spouse passes away, the bills don't get cut in half, do they?
Right.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Your grocery bill might be lower, but your electricity won't be that much lower. Your mortgage,
the house payment doesn't get cut. That's for sure. Well, this is a great topic, and I think there are many reasons why women need to save more, save early, save often. But the important part of that is having a plan. Barb, that's where you and BG Wealth Management comes in. This is what you help people with. This is what you do. And you have a great team there to help folks. how can our listeners set up a consultation if they have questions? If there's women out there listening, hey, I want to get on top of the finances. I want both my husband and I to be a part of this, or I want to know what I can do to save more in my retirement accounts.
You can always go to our website, bgwealthmanagement.com. And at the top of the page, there is a button that says schedule a consultation. It will be a complimentary, no cost, no obligation consultation where we will take a look at where you are, take a look at where you think you need to be and where you're headed, and see if those those expectations are aligning with reality. And if not, we can help you figure out how to make things work or do our best to point you in a better direction.
Yeah.
You can always also call us. Do it the old-fashioned way. Call 913-553-6222. Christina in our office will usually be the one handling the phones and scheduling meeting with myself. And then again, we can either sit down by face-to-face or by Zoom and get to know each other and do whatever we can to try to help you see where you are on the path to retirement and if you need to make any adjustments.
There you go. And I want to encourage our listeners, again, that website is bgwealthmanagement.com. The phone number, 913-553-6222. But also you can subscribe to the show as a podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, or Apple Podcasts, I should say, and Amazon Music. But the YouTube videos are great. You got to see Barbara's looking great. You got to see this, and the beautiful artwork behind her. You got to watch the show. I did a search here. The easiest way to find it on YouTube is go to search Federal Retirement Coach. That's actually the page it's on.
Yes, that's one of our pages. We have a
Federal Retirement Coach, and go to you can type in Anchor Your Retirement. It's a few down. Look for Anchor Your Retirement, and BG Wealth Advisory, I think, is on there as well. So
yep. Because, our obviously our Federal Retirement Coach page is targeted definitely specifically toward federal employees.
Yep.
I'm not sure if all of our podcasts are on Fed Retirement Coach.
They are. I just checked.
Good.
Yep. They are. So, well, hey, I just want to encourage listeners to find us on YouTube, and you can always go to the show page to get to those pages at bgwealthmanagement.com.
But help us out and like and subscribe, because that way you'll get a notice every time we have a new podcast that comes out.
Awesome. Well, Barb, great to see you today. Yes. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Anchor Your Retirement with our host, Barb Golan.
We'll see you soon.